Hi guys, welcome to another Scrap Chat video. I made the mistake of leaving my Scrap Chat request line open a little bit too long. It's been about a week since I posted what questions you guys have, and now I have 73 questions to answer. So unfortunately, I'm not going to get around to everybody's questions, but what I'll do is I'll make a list, like I'll bookmark this and I will come back to it and maybe make as many videos as I can until I'm finished answering all these questions. I definitely want to answer your questions, and there might be some repeats. I had read all of them up until a point, and then I ended up being more busy this weekend than I thought I'd be, and I was away for a while and didn't check, and now there's 73. So I'm glad you guys are so enthusiastic. That's awesome. So I'll start with Kelly Moore, who says, when will your next class be, Tracy? And I don't know, it'll be coming up soon, I swear. I'm halfway done. I'm a little stalled. I've been halfway done for a while, but whenever I have a chance to work away at it, I think I probably only need like maybe another weekend or two of having lots of time to dedicate to it, and then I'll be done. So soon, I promise, soon. You'll be the first to know. I'll post it on my group as soon as I am almost there and in the final touches, and then you'll know that it's coming up really soon. So then Rosemary says, when you prepare for a crop and don't have ready-made kits, i.e. Hip Kit Club, to this is tiny. Do you make individual page kits or make a kit to use for multiples and the actual photos, or no particular photo in mind? Do you use sketches or just wing it? So, okay, if I'm going to a crop and I don't have a kit, like a Kit Club kit, I would probably make my own kit. I don't typically make page kits where I say I have this photo and I want these supplies to go with this, and then I have this other photo and I want these supplies, and kind of kit it up individually. Because I find that what happens when I do that is I feel kind of too stifled, like there are too many parameters for me to follow, and it's hard. I know that some people can do that, and I wish that I could, because I think that would be a really efficient way to pack, because what I end up doing is I tend to make giant kits, at least the same size as a Kit Club that you would buy. And I like to have lots of options for my letter stickers and lots of options for my paper, because I never know how I'm going to feel when I get there. I am very much a fly by the seat of my pants kind of scrapbooker, and so I tend to, even if I'm in the mood and I think, oh, these will look really great together in the moment, I'll pack it away, and then I go to the crop and I'm like, ugh, what was I thinking? I hate that. And so a big supply of stuff is really helpful. But having said that, I don't like to pack up my whole room. As you guys would know from if you've seen any of my packing for a crop videos, you know that I do tend to kit and then stick with the kit. I tend to not bring many tools. I tend to not bring much in terms of like mixed media supplies, and just do mostly paper scrapbooking without many tools. Although last time I did bring my die cut machine, my little die cut machine, and my typewriter, and that was really, and my sewing machine. So those are tools, aren't they? But I think that I get a lot of bang for my buck when I bring my typewriter and my sewing machine, because those are things that I can share with other people, and also I tend to, if I have them, I will use them on all of my layouts. So that's kind of if I have the extra room. And by packing lighter supply-wise, it allows me, at least the last time I went, it allowed me to carry more of those larger tools with me. Oh, wait a second. I just closed the window. I have my iPad here, so reading, because I'm filming on my phone. Okay, and then do I use sketches or just wing it? I almost always use sketches at a crop, because I find I'm very easily distracted at a crop, and I tend to get up and walk around a lot and shop a lot and talk a lot. And even when I'm sitting, I feel like my attention level is limited when I'm at a crop. And so I do tend to use usually Christine Davidson sketches. I'll just bring one of her sketchbooks with me and just work from that. I don't need all 4 sketchbooks with me, because I don't need that much of a choice. And I typically have more difficulty making choices when I have more options. So I'll just grab a sketchbook and go. So thanks for your question, Rosemary. I hope I answered it. Then Melanie asks, how do you decide what size to print your photos? There are a couple of things that I consider. One is, how is the photo taken in my camera? So for the most part, I take square photos. Although now that the iPhone doesn't remember your last setting, I take more and more rectangular photos because I open up my camera and I just take the picture and then I realize, oh, it's not square, and I have to kind of scroll and take another. So, yeah, it depends on what size it is. If it's square, then I only have to decide what size is it going to be. And so for a photo that has a lot of busy details in it, I will print it as large as I can. So if I'm using my Epson PictureMate Charm, that means about 3.8 by 3.8 if I want to still have a little border on it, or 3.9 by 3.9. I can print 4 by 4 if I print borderless. And but the reason I pick a larger size for a really detailed photo is so that you can see those details. If I am printing a photo that has one bold image, like maybe just somebody's face, or just something that has nice clean lines and is easy to see, then I might print it smaller and I might include a couple more photos on that page. So I guess it also depends on how many photos I need to tell my story. So if there are lots of photos that I need to print, like if I need to print 3, which is a lot for me, if I'm not doing a double page, then I will sometimes print them smaller, or I might print 1 large and then 2 smaller. I guess there are a lot of things that I have to consider when I'm deciding on the size. And then the other issue, and probably one of the biggest reasons that I will print a photo small, is if the quality of the photo is poor. So if it was taken in low lighting and it tends to have a grainy look to it, then I will print it small. I might even print it as small as 2 by 2 or 3 by 3. No, 2 by 2 is pretty small for a 12 by 12 page, especially if I'm not doing like multiple photos. So probably the smallest I would go would be maybe 2.8 by 2.8 for a really low quality photo. And then if it's rectangular, then I'll usually just print it at 4 by 6 because it's easy to design around 4 by 6. I'm used to using it. If I have 2, I might print 3 by 4s and then put them side by side. Usually if I have more than 3 photos, I will make a double page layout, and I usually don't do that because oftentimes I find that I like to have like a summary picture of an event, and I don't really need the photo. Like for example, let me show you my most recent page. So this page, for example, this is a page that I did today for my Patreon supporters, and this page uses 1 photo of the pool to tell, it's actually not even a story about the pool, it's a story about how we've been staying at a hotel more often when we go on trips to Pictou County, which is where my husband's family is from. And it's actually taken from a trip where we did something really awesome that we've never done in our lives, and it's really exciting and not many people get to do it. We went to a house party, like a house concert of a fairly famous Canadian band. And so, you know, we got to meet the band, and like not just meet them, but like they were at the party and there were only maybe 25 or 30 people there. So we, you know, got to know them quite well. Like they were one of the few people to talk to. So it was actually like a really amazing experience, and I'm going to be scrapbooking that in a separate page. But I also wanted to talk about the story of the fact that we're staying at this hotel more often, why we're staying at it more often, and what that means for us. And so this photo of the pool in the hotel kind of captured that story really well. I didn't feel like I needed a bunch of pictures of the kids in their bathing suits and jumping in the pool, and because those pictures are kind of cluttered. You can't see my kids versus other people's kids. I don't want to really scrapbook a bunch of strangers in a pool. And this picture of just the pool before it was basically, we were the first ones there, and the pool is all quiet and peaceful. Just kind of was an opportunity for me to scrapbook the moment and also kind of capture the beauty of the pool in its pristine condition. And so anyhow, this is just an example of how I can use a single photo, because it doesn't really matter what the photo is, the story is more important than the photo anyways. And so I find that more and more these days, my stories are more like all I need is a snapshot in order to tell the story. And so yeah, I don't know how I got on that track when I was trying to talk about how I decide what size photos I print. But anyways, those are the main things that I consider when I'm choosing the sizes of my photos. Do you ever, so then Debbie asks, do you ever create a page without a particular photo in mind, or do you always let the photo inspire you? Very rarely, actually. Every once in a while, you'll know when I do that, because I might have 2 or 3 photos printed up, and I'll say, I want to scrapbook one of these 3 stories that are represented by these 3 photos. And then I'll get started, and then fairly soon into the process, it becomes clear which picture this page is going to be about, and then I kind of set the other 2 aside for another day. So if you don't see that happening, then chances are this page happened the way that most pages happen, which is I do tend to start with my photo. But when I'm choosing my photo, I'm keeping in mind what supplies I have. So for example, for this one, I knew I had just reviewed this kit fairly recently. This is the May kit from the Hip Kit Club. And so I knew that there were a lot of these watery blue colors in it. And I knew that this chevron paper from the Chamel collection was in it. And so I knew when I was looking at all of the potential pictures to scrapbook, some of the pictures of us meeting, like just chatting with the band and watching the band and stuff, were in my stream. And I thought about using those, but I thought this kit really gives me a great opportunity to scrapbook a watery kind of a photo. So that's why I decided to use the pool picture. And I'll come back. My next layout will probably be about the concert. And so so you'll see, I don't know what I'm going to do with that, but I'll probably use I'll still use this kit, but I'll just use different colors because it's not such a blue photo. So I hope that answers your question. It's kind of like usually the photo guides the scrapbook page, but then some of my supplies will determine which photo I'm choosing from all of my options of thousands of pictures that I have that I could be printing up for that particular day. So it's kind of dynamic. Annie asks, where do you find inspiration when you're in a rut? That's a really big question that I could spend a lot of time answering, but I can't because I've got 73 questions here. And I see that Annie asks a bunch of questions. So I will say that, first of all, I have my Find Your Mojo series over on Scrapbook and Cards Today, and that series kind of talks about some different ways that you can find inspiration when you feel like you've lost your mojo or you're in a bit of a rut. So I will encourage you to check out that, and I'll try to remember to leave the link to that in the information section below, and maybe in a card right here as well. Basically, there are 2 different kinds of ruts that I get into. Well, maybe 3 now. So one is inspiration overload rut, which is where you're just seeing so much on Instagram and Pinterest and Facebook, and you just feel like there's a million ideas and I don't even know where to start. And the way that I get out of that kind of a rut is I unplug and I go off of social media for a while, and I look at some of my own pages and think about what stories I've told so far and what stories I still really want to tell. And I kind of get back in touch with the reason that I scrapbook, which is, to just have fun with design and art and to tell some stories along the way. And I really do consider scrapbooking to be like the process. There's a reason I do process videos, because the process is what I really love, and telling the stories is a really wonderful side effect of that process. I don't really necessarily think that the stories are secondary. They're part of the process, but it really is the process that I enjoy the most. And basically, even if I wasn't telling stories, I would still probably scrapbook. So where do I find inspiration? So there are three different kinds of problems. One is inspiration overload, in which case that's what I do. The second problem is just not having enough inspiration, and if that's the case, then I will go on to Pinterest, or usually it's Instagram that I go on these days, and what I'll try to do is look up a really generic tag like hashtag scrapbooking or something, because then I'll see something that's outside of what I'm normally seeing, and it might spark an idea or an interest that will lead to something else. The third inspiration, I guess, challenge that I've been having recently is more related to not having the energy levels required to be creative. Because I find that when I scrapbook, I really want to do a good job, and it's hard for me to just come down and do a little bit and then walk away and do more later. And so I think giving yourself permission to do smaller projects, like maybe a card or a project life card, or a partial project, like just do a background and then leave and then come back and then decide what you're going to do on the background, can be really helpful as well. So that's how I handle inspiration in a nutshell, which is, I guess, a big issue that we could talk all day about. Then Annie also asks, what's the weirdest thing on or in your desk and crafting space? And the day that she asked it, I said, I have an answer for you. This is the strangest thing. It's not on my desk anymore, but I will show you what was on my desk when she asked this question. So see this hookah that this doll is holding, that was on my craft space the day that Annie asked that question. I said definitely a doll-sized hookah, like a 1/6 scale hookah, is probably definitely the strangest thing that has ever been on my craft desk. This is one of, you guys know that I have a doll collecting hobby as well, and this is the caterpillar from Alice in Wonderland. I am making a Alice in Wonderland display. It's not finished yet, but I have a variety of different dolls dressed up as different characters. Some of them are still on their way or in the progress of having clothes made for them, or the doll, like there's some custom dolls that I actually have to like make the doll itself, like paint its face and make its eyes and all those sorts of things. And so anyhow, this hookah right here is definitely the strangest thing I've ever had on my craft desk. And being a doll customizer, I have had doll body parts, eyeballs, all sorts of strange things on my craft desk. This is another area in my room where I have some bodies that have to go on some dolls. This is actually an incredibly hard to get doll body. It's maroon, which is believe it or not, that's one of the darkest body colors that these dolls come in. It's not the darkest, but it's a very, very difficult to get item, and I scored one last week, and I'm so excited about it because I have some dark-skinned dolls that I'm making. Anyhow, yes, I have weird things on my desk on a regular basis because of this other weird hobby that I have. Weird and wonderful. I love my other hobby. So I'll go back to my desk now. Okay, so that's the weirdest thing on my crafting space. Thank you for the question, Annie. Then Annie also asks, do you like mixing page sizes in your scrapbooks? Are you only a 12 by 12er? Yes, I invented a word. Feel free to use it. I love that word, 12 by 12er. I am predominantly a 12 by 12er. I like the size. It just works for me. It's comfortable and easy, and I don't know, I like it. It brings me comfort. I do enjoy mixing up my pages, but it really is the exception, not the norm. I love doing 1.5 page layouts. That's probably my favorite non 12 by 12 is a 1.5 or a 6 by 12 on its own, like a standalone 6 by 12. And so in order to do what I mean by 1.5, I mean a 12 a 12 by 12 and then facing it a 6 by 12, kind of in a 6 by 12 pocket right beside it. And I use Becky Higgins 6 by 6 or 6 by 12 page protectors in order to do that. I also really like the idea of putting 8.5 by 11, especially the horizontal 8.5 by 11 layout sorry, in my pages amongst my 12 by 12s. I really like the idea. I don't think I do enough of them to make an 8.5 by 11 album, but I do like the idea of it mixed in with my 12 by 12 pages. And I was actually thinking that I might like that kind of a layout mounted on either a 12 by 12 transparency and in a 12 by 12 pocket, or on a piece of 12 by 12 cardstock or something to hold onto the 8.5 by 11 layout. So yeah, and I have been not doing very much Project Life, like not much pocket page scrapbooking, but I am about to get back into that. So watch my channel for some of that, and I'm going to be using a new size when I do get back into that. So I have to go like view previous comments every time I close this by accident, so I'll try not to close it anymore. All right, so on to the next one. Then, have you ever mixed other types of materials or pages in your albums, like canvas and transparency and chipboard, etc.? So I have a whole page. I have a whole class all about using different items in your scrapbooking pages, including things that are designed for using in your scrapbook pages, but also things from around your house. It's called Take 10 Texture, and it is 10 process videos that explore the use of texture. And then there are also some other videos. I think there's a total of maybe 16 videos in total. I could be wrong. So there are some instruction and kind of bonus videos along with the 12 by 12 process videos. And that's a really great class. You can check it out on my website if you're interested. And I'll leave you a coupon code in the information section so that you can get a bit of a discount if you want to buy it. And I keep a whole drawer over there called Texture. Let me see if I can pull it out for you. Whoo, so here is my texture drawer. It is one of these drawers that goes in my Jetmax Cube. You can see the empty hole right there. There. That's where this came from. And it is overloaded with a whole bunch of different things, including scrapbooking stuff. Sometimes when I'm playing around with mixed media and something looks kind of reasonably nice, for example, this or this, I'll just stick it in here, and I might use it as it is, or I might cut it up or die cut it or tear it and use it as a little bit to stick in someplace, like packaging from different things, some burlap that's made for scrapbooking. I love these Tassimo packaging because the inside of them are plain silver and they look really nice die cut and also embossed, as this can show you. See, that's what the back side of it looks like. And just all kinds of random things. If you're interested in seeing more about that, like I said, check out my class. There's lots of good information over there. Okie dokie, let's move on to the next one. Love texture. Love, love, love texture. What would be, so Helen asks, what would be your bucket list thing to scrapbook? Something you may have or may not have experienced yet. My bucket thing to scrapbook would be travel. I really wish that I could travel more. That's all I can say about that, is just that I wish that I could travel more. I would love to go back to New York City. I'd love to take the kids back to Disney. I'd love to take the kids to Cuba. I'd love to go, to India. I'd love to go to Europe. I'd love to go to a million different places. But right now, that's not in the cards for our family, but maybe someday. Then Jody says, I struggle with transparency sheets. Oh, sister, I hear you. Oh, that is a bad problem. Any advice or past videos to help me incorporate these troublesome pieces. And then I responded and said, I have no love for transparency. I much prefer the softness of vellum over the glaring look of transparency, but I'll talk about this in my video and say what I do like when I do like to use transparency. When do I like to use transparency? Almost never. I find that it reflects in a weird way when you take pictures of your pages, and even in real life, even the nice transparency that has like gold glittery dots all over it or little patterns on it, those look nice, but I really prefer to use those as pages in mini albums or as windows or pockets or something, because they're really great to use in Project Life, actually, because in Project Life you have it gives you a new dimension. Like it allows you to kind of peekaboo through to the other side and gives you a whole other design idea. Like then you can kind of think about, well, what will be on the card behind it, and then what will you do on the other side of the same page. And so that to me is a lot more fun than using it on a scrapbook page. Sometimes I might do something like die cut a piece of transparency outline around it and then tuck it in between my layers. I haven't done that in a very, very long time, but that is the kind of thing I used to do with transparency. But I don't typically use transparency as a layer, like in a chunk, like a rectangular chunk, and layering it amongst my other pattern papers, because I just don't care for it very much. What I love is vellum. It has a soft, light, airy feel. It softens almost anything. It's also transparent, so it's also good for using to make pockets or to show things underneath of it. So yeah, I prefer vellum over transparency any day. So then Mary says, oh, please show us non-sewers how the heck to thread a basic sewing machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a list of videos that I'll make from this scrap chat, because I think that instead of trying to squeeze a question like that into this one, it makes better sense for me to just do a how to use your sewing machine video. I can do that. Sewing machine 101, why don't we say? Which is going to be very interesting, seeing that I am not a sewer, but for scrapbooking, we'll say. Then Lisa says, Lisa. Okay, since we only see your work area, do you make a huge mess when you scrap? If so, how long does it take you to tidy up after a scrap session? Or do you wait to tidy up before you scrap again? If you don't make a mess, what is your secret to neat and tidy scrapbooking? I have no secrets to neat and tidy scrapbooking, other than the basic one that you probably already know, which is try to tidy up each time you do a project, like at the end of your project. That can help. I do not enjoy tidying up in the middle of a project. Like if I'm gonna be stopping and then going and doing something else and coming back to it, I would rather leave it out. That's why I have a dedicated scrap spaces, so that I can do that. So problems happen when everything gets condensed time-wise. So lately I've had much, much less time to scrap. And the result is this. So let me just show you. So this is literally what my room looks like right now. This is off in the wings. This is the space that I like to keep clean, because it's where I can put my stuff that I'm just kind of thinking about using, or my cast-offs. And there are probably there's two hip kits there, and which I need to sort out, because I like to use my kits, like I like to contain my kits. Anyhow, there are two kits there. There's a bunch of Stampin' Up! Stuff and a bunch of other things there as well. This is what my space looks like right in front of me as I'm talking to you guys. I still have part of a hip kit out. And then this is usually where I keep my tools. So pens and pencils and washi tape, I usually keep letters over here, and that sort of thing are over here, and then consumable spare products I keep over here. That's usually my workflow. If you're interested in what this space looks like, it's just as bad. I have, this is stuff where I'm about to narrate. Instead of bothering to write down the things that I use in my narrations now, I just, because my computer is right beside my workspace, as I go along, anything that I've used, I just put in a pile right here. So this is the pile of items that I used in this layout right here, because I just narrated that video a few minutes ago. And so as I was saying, oh, those stickers are by, and then I just have the packages right there that I can talk about. And then you guys already saw that my doll area is pretty darn messy as well over there. That's that table over there. And even my kids' slime / scrapbooking area is pretty messy right now. I made them come down and clean it up, but I didn't clean up my own space. So yeah, it turns out that my kids' space is the cleanest space in my room right now, despite the fact that it's my space. Okay. So now you know the secret, but actually, you know, it's not usually like this. It's not usually perfect either, but it's something between what you see in my scrap room videos where everything is neat and tidy, and this probably a little bit more on the side of clean than this, if you're wondering how it usually looks. And I can show you some other behind the scenes next, like something that's more, I can show you something that's more typical when I'm in that position. I'll just take a snapshot and let you know. All right, so then Carmen asks, I joined Hip Kit Club recently and slowly getting overwhelmed with ephemera, where to store, how to store, by color, by kit, by theme. Currently, it's all of the above. Do you have a solution or method to keep these sorted? Also, going to receive my first color kit and totally intimidated. I need a YouTube called Mixed Media for Dummies. So you're going to be getting that awesome color kit. Yay, that's an awesome one. So yes, some people here gave some names of some people who do lots of wonderful things with mixed media. We've got Missy Whitten. We've got, I know Irit does lots of great ones. And somebody says, someone else, okay, so then they're kind of talking amongst each other. So thank you for sharing your ideas with Carmen. That's very, very helpful. I love that about this community, that we all help each other out. So thank you for that. And Irit and Missy both have wonderful YouTube channels with lots of ideas. There are lots of other people who use mixed media too. None of them are coming to mind right now because I haven't had much time to go on YouTube myself lately. You'll see in my channel that I have some, I have an art journal playlist. So there's some information. So I do a lot of mixed media on my art journal pages. So you can check that out. I'll link it in the information section below. And with regards to how I store my ephemera, I kind of do all of the above too. I keep my current kit in a current kit area, which lately has been, I just put it back into its bag, and then any little things I put in these little trays, like this and this, that don't go well in the bag, and then I put the bag in this, along with any other design team stuff that I have. So I'm not on the design team for the Hip Kit Club, but they do send me a kit every month for me to use. So they're sponsors of my channel. So I keep everything because I also do work for Scrapbook and Cards Today, and sometimes I might have like just current stuff that I want to make sure I get on my channel while it's still current. Like I had some Stampin' Up! Supplies in there that I wanted to make sure that I used in a certain time frame. So anything that's timely that needs to be used right away goes in that green basket in these large bags, and then I just set these trays in front of the large bags, and these trays actually hold up the bags, and the system works quite well for now. And I just keep that tray, that green thing, right down there on the floor for now. It didn't really feel like I needed to take up table space with it, so I just decided to do that. It works okay. It's contained and it doesn't get dusty or anything, so it's fine. So that's the first way that I store my my embellishments and stuff. Then the second way for ephemera, my place is a disaster. So for ephemera, I have this drawer here and it says die cuts on it. And this is how it looks. So I have some that are still in their collection packs, and I keep them in Ziploc bags when they're in their collection packs. And usually I will either keep the packaging right in there so I know which one it is, or I'll take a Sharpie marker and write on the top what the collection is. Or sometimes I just know the collection because I know them from working with them for a long time. I keep them in here as long as they're sort of current-ish. I keep them in their collections because usually I'm just so familiar with the collections that I have that I know, oh, I want something Dear Lizzie-ish. And so it's easier for me to just reach into the most recent Dear Lizzie pack than it is for me to go through. The other way that I store them is by color. And so this is what I do when these are no longer current. So for example, when I get the next Dear Lizzie thing, I'll take this Dear Lizzie one out and I'll sort it by color. And I just sort it by dominant color. So I know that most die cuts are going to have multiple colors on them. So I just kind of glance at it and say, I see mostly red, and then I'll put it in my red bin. And the bins look like this, and they're those 4x6 storage containers that you can get at Michael's. And they're by Iris, and I bought a whole suitcase that's filled with these. I actually bought 2 of them, and they're in one of my scrap room tour videos. If you watch my old scrap room tour videos, one of them has that in it. And then the way that I label them is just with a colored Sharpie marker to indicate the color of the contents. There we go. And that's just right behind me while I'm scrapbooking, so it's very convenient. And I see that Jody does the same thing in terms of using little plastic baggies. So then Chris says, I have ideas galore, but when I get to my craft room, all my ideas seem to disappear. I write them down and then feel stressed. As a result, I haven't scrapped anything for months. What do you think the issue is? Do you or have you felt this way before? Yes, I have felt this way before. I think that lots of scrapbookers feel this way from time to time, some more than others. And I think that sometimes, first of all, for me, when I start to feel stressed out, that's a message to myself that something isn't working because this is my hobby and it's not supposed to be stressful. So whenever I feel stressed out, I take a little bit of a step back, and I might actually maybe not scrapbook for a little while, like maybe take a week off and not do anything and think about why I'm doing this. It's to have fun and to be creative and to capture some stories. And the thing is that any story that you scrapbook is better than no stories scrapbooked. And if you think about it, like at least where I live, most people don't scrapbook. The majority, like I am definitely the minority. I don't know. I have very few friends who scrapbook, and the only ones that I have are ones that I met through scrapbooking. So if you think about it, like all those people out there who aren't scrapbooking anything, they're like living pretty content lives. And so you don't have to scrapbook. And when you realize that you don't have to, that takes all the pressure off. And then it's just like, well, what am I going to do today? Oh, I think I'll scrapbook. And then it's great, right? There's no pressure. And so, so writing down ideas might be helpful, but maybe writing down ideas is overwhelming you. So maybe try not writing down ideas and see how that goes. I think everybody just needs to find a strategy that works for them. And so in order to do that, there's a bit of trial and error. And maybe you need to try something that you haven't thought of before, or try something that you thought wouldn't work for you, and see how that goes. And maybe then go back to your other way of doing things and see if that's actually better, or if it's just the way that you've been doing it just because. So I guess experiment is a good way to figure it all out. And you might have different needs at different times in your life too, right? Like I find that when I have a lot going on in the rest of my life and I need to be really orderly in order to make sure that everything works, like if I've got lots of appointments and stuff like that, then I really like to just wing it in the scrap room. But when life is more relaxed outside of the scrapbook room, that gives me more of a chance to say, okay, maybe I want to do a series, and I'm more kind of planned and organized in here. And I think that for me anyways, I like it when my scrapbooking hobby gives me some balance, to almost like balances off and gives me some of the opposite of what I have happening in the rest of my life. I might be weird or different or unique or one of a kind, but I suspect there might be some other people out there who find that too. So that might be just something to be mindful of as well. Then Morella says, my scrapping techniques and style has surely evolved over the years, that I look through my first few albums and wonder if I should ditch those, take the pictures and re-scrap, another word for the new dictionary, using my current style. It's a huge difference, and those early ones are very, very simple. Have you done this? And then some other people weighed in on it, and that was kind of interesting to read. Some people said, please don't change them, and then agreed and agreed. So I think the general consensus from the people who said something were, no, don't change it. Ah, look at them. And Karina posted some of her old ones that I think that they're awesome. Look at that. So I almost feel like my scrapbooks are not only a record of my stories, of my family and our lives and our journey, but it's also a bit of a record of my own scrapbooking journey as a creative person. And let me just go and grab one of my old ones since we're sharing old layouts. I forgot I moved all my scrapbooks upstairs, so I don't have access to them easily right now, but I have a couple of old videos that are album flip videos. I will link them in the information section below so that you can check out how my style has changed. My thoughts on this are that I like to keep my old... Oh, I closed it again. Sorry, guys. I like to keep my old scrapbooks like as they are. I think the only time that I would fix them or change them would be if I were looking through and noticed I had missed a date, or if I had a couple of extra words I wanted to say about something, I might tuck a little note in behind it. Or if things are falling off of it, I might re-glue them. Or even if something has yellowed, I kind of like that. I think it looks kind of, old, right? So yeah, I like to keep them the same. But I think that if you feel like you absolutely can't stand looking at them and definitely want to change them, then go ahead. I mean, there's nothing wrong with changing them if you want to update them. I think that's the wonderful thing about this hobby, is that what works for someone might not work for someone else. And I think that we all should just do whatever we feel happy with. It's your scrapbook. So if you really want to do them over again, go ahead and do them. You might have fun figuring out different ways to scrapbook those memories again. It might be kind of neat to do a before and after and maybe keep both pages. But I don't think that you should feel any pressure to update your old pages, because otherwise we're going to be running on this constant treadmill of everything will be old. Like then the new versions will be old again in another 5 years, and your scrapbooking will have probably changed again. And then are you going to do them all over again for a third time? I don't know. It seems like that could lead to a whole lot of scrapbooking with very little output, which is great if you're just doing it for the process. So maybe that's what you want to do. That's fine. So there I closed it again. I have impulsive fingers. They just keep, done with that one. So I closed the whole bunch of comments. So let's find our spot again. And I think I only have time to do one more for today. So Jean asks a similar question to what someone else asked about ephemera and how to store them. And do you ever think about sorting them out by color? Yes, I do. And I did it, and it's back there. And hopefully the way I described that made some sense. Then Annie says, how often do you incorporate your older stash, all the goodies you drooled over for a long time, into your hip kit or other current collections? That is a really great question. And I usually, when I am working with the kits, because there are a couple of things. So what I find is that when I'm working with the hip kits, the kit has everything in it that I could ever need to reach for. But if I need something else, I just go into my stash and find it. Like, especially after I've made a couple of layouts with a kit, which hasn't been happening very much lately because I just haven't been as productive as usual. But in my more productive bouts of scrapbooking, by the time I get to the end of a kit, I might feel like, oh, I wish I had a flare badge, but I'd already used all the flare badges. Then I just go into my stash. I don't have a problem with doing that. I don't try not to use my stash. It's just that I find that the kits just meet my needs without me even really thinking about it. But I'm not opposed to going into my stash. And I find that the key to being able to do that really easily is to have your room organized. I know that it feels kind of weird to say that when I'm sitting in a literal, like, horrible disaster. But I really find that it helps to keep your room really well organized, and doesn't necessarily mean neat, right? So even though I've got a lot of stuff out, all of this stuff has a home and it can easily go into it. If I just spent 40 minutes, I'd be like spick and span again. And the way that you store your things should be in line with the way that you scrapbook. So when I've been doing this for a long time, I've rejigged my room many, many times over the past however long I've been scrapbooking. But what I do when I'm organizing is I think about what do I reach for and what am I thinking about when I'm reaching for it. So I usually think I need something flat and I need something blue. So I store my die cuts, they're flat, and I store them by color. And then sometimes I think I need something shiny like a flare badge. And so I keep all my flare badges right here. And I also keep my buttons alongside my flare badges because they're similar in shape and they're similar in texture. And then sometimes I might think I need something with dimension. And so I keep a drawer here of all dimensional stickers. So it has those layered stickers as well as puffy stickers and anything that's dimension. Or I might think, oh, I need a label. So I have a whole drawer that's all labels, either die cut labels or sticker labels. So I think that having your stash really well organized makes it a lot easier to incorporate elements from your stash with your current supplies. Then Annie asks, is there a technique that you have tried and just hated? Is there a technique that you're wanting to try but are hesitant about? I don't know if there's something that I've been wanting to try. One thing that I want to do and just don't have the time for is foil. Like, I have some supplies for gold foiling things, and I just never seem to have the time to do that. One thing that I really do not enjoy is making my own embellishments. I know that that sounds kind of strange because I do it sometimes, and I do like it when I'm doing it, but I really don't like it as much as I thought I'd like it. Like, when I first started scrapbooking, I thought I would want to make everything, but now I really love buying stuff already made. Like, I love layered embellishments that I can just peel off the page and stick it on my own page. And because it adds a lot of impact with little time. And then there are times when I really want something specific, and then I'm fine to make it, but I don't like to always make my own embellishments. I really like enjoying embellishments that someone else made and designed and that look beautiful just straight off of the wrapper, right? Yeah, making my own embellishments is something. Like, I got some of those dies for making those flowers that are like a spiral, and you wind it up upon itself and you distress the edges. And I made a couple of those, and my lesson learned from that is I hate doing this. And so, I mean, if I was in a pinch and I really needed a flower, I've got the die, I'd probably do it again, but it's not something that I love as much as I thought I would love it. So that's why I don't buy those sorts of dies anymore that are kind of specific to one specific make your own embellishment, because I just don't like that very much. So that's all that I can think of that I tried and hated. I typically like most things, and even the thing I hate, I actually like to do sometimes. Rosemary was wondering if I have any go-to design backups or principles when I'm stuck with a blank page and don't know where to start. Well, a ledge layout is probably my go-to. In fact, even though this doesn't look very much like a ledge, it's a ledge layout. Like this one right here, this is my ledge, and then I just stick my picture on the ledge, and then whatever you do around it can vary, but putting a layout on a ledge is really easy. And usually the way that my ledges go is there's like a horizontal rectangle, and then my 4x6 photo kind of sits on top of it, and then I can layer different things around it, and you end up kind of hiding the ledge in your design process, and it's not obvious that it was a ledge layout. But I think I talked about ledge layouts recently, so I feel like I've said all this before. So I don't want to be too repetitive here, but ledge layouts are one of my favorite go-to designs. And another really good backup is to have some of those 12x12 cut files. And if you don't have a die cut machine, you can buy the 12x12 die cut pieces that make a background, and then you can just piece in. So most of your design ends up being, how are you going to kind of patchwork together something for a background, or are you just going to slap it on one single piece of paper, or how are you going to do that? And then that becomes your design, and then you can be really minimal in how you, like with your paper layering and embellishing on top of it. So it's another really good backup. I use that one a lot at crops because it's a very repetitive task, like putting the backs on all of those open holes in the die cut is a really repetitive task that you can do while you're chatting. And it's the kind of thing that I wouldn't typically do when I'm sitting here all by myself because I'd get bored with it, but it's a great thing to do at a crop. Not what you asked, but that's what I'm volunteering. Then Allison says, where do you donate unused product? I have way too much, but local thrift store often doesn't want it, and it's still great stuff. So I hand it over to my kids who scrapbook right down the desk from me a little ways. And I also have given it to schools. I give letter stickers to my kids' teachers. They're getting too old now, so their teachers probably don't want that kind of stuff. But I'll go back to the lower ages and give stuff away. I also will sometimes ask around and see if anybody knows any new scrapbooker. There used to be a new scrapbooker who lived in my neighborhood who I would just drop stuff off at her house when I was finished with stuff. But also I tend to hang on to stuff just to use for giveaways, and so I'll just send it in the mail to somebody who watches my channel, because I you guys are kind enough to support me through your comments and likes and subscriptions to my videos and buying my classes and stuff. So I really do like to pay it forward and give my supplies to you guys whenever possible. So that's what I like to do. But yeah, I think daycares and schools and maybe therapy places, like kind of recreation centers or places where there are drop-ins for elderly or people with mental health problems or whatever the case might be, those would probably be good places because they always need supplies for art therapy and other tasks that they do there. Do you ever have trouble with stickers not wanting to come off the wax paper? It happens to me sometimes, but I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or if it's the cheapy wax paper that I'm using. Yeah, I do. Sometimes I just peel it off and the wax paper doesn't come off, and then I just use adhesive over top. Like I just run my ATG over the stuck. Like the sticker loses its stickiness because there's a bunch of peeled off wax paper under it, and I just cover it with a couple of runs of my ATG and just plop it down. So it does happen, or I might pop it up. That I'm probably more likely to use pop dots if that's happened as well. Okay, so I am going to stop here. The next question sounds like one that I'm probably going to want to spend a bit of time on. It's Sandy Lewis's one, so I'm going to do a little screenshot here for knowing where I left off. Oh, hang on. I just closed it. Again. Okay, it's not working. How do you take a screenshot on this iPad thingy? Okay. I'm going to have to actually like literally take a picture of this in order to know where I left off. Anyhow, thanks so much for watching. I will come back in a couple more days. It won't be too long, and I'll add more. I'll just do a part 2, and I'll just keep doing it until I'm all done. So in the meantime, thanks for watching and have a really great scrappy week.